Welcome to an enlightened hour of interactive talk. This is Guided Spirit Conversations with host Marla Goldberg. In this program, we spotlight guests from all over the globe who have helped others change their lives and will provide you with the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to help you make a difference in your own life. Now, here is Marla Goldberg.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg, and I hope you had a wonderful and safe 4th of July weekend. There's a lot going on. It's nice to be out and about in groups and being able to watch fireworks and all that fun stuff. And I wanted to share with you today's guest, Brandon Beachum. Brandon is a podcaster, entrepreneur, author, philosopher, and truth seeker. Since discussing and continually exploring what he refers to as the ultimate nature of reality is something he is passionate about, and he launched the Positive Head podcast in 2015 because he felt that this would be the best avenue to pursue his calling and to help bring this increasingly popular topic of conversation to a broader audience. The Positive Head podcast has continued to grow over the years and is now consistently being recognized in the top 5 podcasts under spirituality category on Apple Podcast, and currently has over 15 million downloads. That's amazing. Congratulations. The show aims to help listeners consistently maintain an elevated vibration. In 2019, Brandon began stewarding a communal property in Venice, California called Mystic Manor, where he hosted regular weekly retreats and also began filming Positive Head's epic evolution on the late night style consciousness elevating variety show Optimystic. I love that, which consists of soul share interviews, visionary artists, live painting, musical performances, and fan co-creation in front of a live audience. In addition to continue to help others to shift their perspectives to innerstand the ultimate nature of reality and create more of what they want to see in the world, Brandon released his first book in January of 2021, so new, The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. In it, Brandon shares 8 keys of abundance, which he has unlocked over the 25 years of experience and deep exploration. And he is gifting these keys to the world via the book to help others unlock their own divine potential. And stick around to the end because Brandon does have a special surprise for you. Welcome, Brandon.
Hello, Marla. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I have to say, love the book. And I know we're going to get into it, but let's talk about the hero's tale. What is the hero's tale? What's your hero's tale?
Great way to jump right in there. I love that. And I love that question. So as you mentioned, I've been on this journey of, self-exploration and exploring the ultimate nature of reality for 25 years now. And, it's quite the thing to understand these philosophies that we all sort of know, talk about, subscribe to. I think probably a lot of people listening to the show would agree, this idea that all is literally one. It's all an extension of the one source consciousness that creates and animates all things. And that's great to understand philosophically. And it's a whole other thing to, apply it to your life in a way that is meaningful and impactful, especially when challenges arise, right? As Mike Tyson put it, he said it very well. Everyone's got a plan till you get punched in the face. And so life can punch us in the face sometimes. And I've definitely had my share of punches. And so, yeah, going back 25 years of sort of exploring these concepts with excitement and vigor and, oh my gosh, how does everyone not see that we're all one and, eternal beings, and talk to anyone who would listen about it. And then enter the challenges. And that's really what shapes us, I believe. And it's I love the saying, smooth seas never made for a skilled sailor. And I believe we all came to be skilled sailors. So we need these challenges. These challenges are blessings.
Yes.
They did a study a while back where they were trying to grow trees in the perfect environment. And what they did is, perfectly contained the right light, soil, water, and they'd get to a certain point and then they'd fall over. and they were confused, like, this is perfect. Why would they not grow? And they realized what they were missing was wind, and wind creates stress and bark to protect itself, and causes the strong roots. So that's really what's happening in our own lives with these challenges. So when you ask about my own personal hero's journey tale, that's what comes to mind. And so let me see. Probably the best way to kind of I'll tell it as concisely as I can. So 2011, I launched 2010, I launched a company that ran out of money, monergy, resources to get it. It was growing, it was doing well, and I hit a bunch of frustration with people who had invested, and just lack of funds, and I was so frustrated that I then had to, for the first time as a serial entrepreneur my whole life, I had to go back to working for someone else for the first time in a very long time. However, I held this vision of, I am worthy of calling in more financial abundance. I want to get back to this project. I want to be able to. I am one, with all the abundance in the universe. It's all an extension of me. I believed that wholeheartedly, and yet I had hit a low point from all apparent. If you were to just look at where I was at that moment, I'm in my 30s. I ended up staying on a friend's couch at that time, and but yet I knew this is happening for me, not to me. It's part of my own growth edge of learning how to call in the abundance that is my birthright. And so I just kept holding that vision regardless of the external circumstances. And ultimately, it led me to that job that I took, led me to understanding where there was a huge gap in the travel industry. I was working for a travel related business, and I saw, like, wow, there's a huge opportunity here. That could be the path where I unlock this financial abundance that I need to create more of the things I want to see in the world. And so that's basically what happened. I started a travel company in 2011 based off of what I learned working for someone else, and it took off like a rocket ship. It went from me to 100 plus employees within a few years, so 4 years. And doing north of 10 million a year in revenue, which 1 in 10,000 entrepreneurs ever achieves that level of success, financial success, if you will. And so I accredited it all to my understanding of the ultimate nature of reality. And this, as I say in my new book, The Golden Key, abundance is our birthright, the quintessence of our being, the essence of the essence. And so I felt that. I believed it in every cell of my being, despite these external circumstances. And now here it is being reflected back to me in a way that is validating and meaningful. And, we get to the point where we decide we want to exit, because, the travel business was not my passion per se. It was a means to an end to create the financial resources. So to do other things. So about that time, we bring in a partner who's going to help us to take the company to an exit where we can sell it and take our money and go do other things, right? And
yeah.
so we were, we'd been listed as an Inc. fastest growing private company in the U.S. We had an interested buyer. We went through 6 months of due diligence, and then we got to an offer from them to be bought out for about $30 million. Within 12 hours of that offer, we were notified from, at the time, Booking.com we were doing rentals through Booking.com as part of our model, right? And we were doing a lot of $1 million a month or so in rentals at that time. Wow. And they came to us and said, "Hey, we've partnered with another big player in the travel industry that didn't like what we were doing because we were sort of a competitor to them." And they said, "Look, this much bigger partner than you has insisted that we no longer work with you as part of our new agreement." And so within 12 hours of this exit, this big offer, right, we lost 90% of our revenue. Wow. And as a result, that offer evaporated. And to add insult to injury, then my, at the time, best friend and and one of the primary business partners. I started it, brought my brother in quickly. Then I brought my best friend in about a year later. And then towards the end, brought in this fourth primary partner to help us exit, right? Well, the best friend partner and the new guy, we found out were sort of plotting to push me and my brother out as part of this. Um, you know, obviously we had been hit by an asteroid with what just happened, and then my brother happened to log into his email from a webmail instead of his Outlook, which he normally used, and they had linked emails years in the past and saw these emails where they were strategizing how to push us out and recapitalize and sort of take over what was left, right? Which was very painful and hurtful because we were the founders of the feast, so to speak. We had given them their equity,
Right.
we just to bring them in, and here they are, trying to sort of push us out. And what was funny with this, Marla, is months earlier, me and the best friend partner, it had been strange for that last year or so. When the fourth guy came in, they kind of became buddy, and they didn't like all my spiritual talk and all the things I'm excited about. I had started my podcast at that same time as an outlet to share
Okay.
my perspectives on the ultimate nature of reality. So they kind of turned on me in a sense, and that was already painful. But I remember one of the last times I spent quality time with the friend. He proposed to me. He said, "What would you do if the new fourth partner, if your new podcast just blew up, became a big deal, really popular, and he decided to claim that he should be entitled to a percentage of it, or our company should, because you started it while you were still on payroll here." This is the way these guys think, very business centric, very sort of sharky energy at the time. And what I said to him, Marla, is I said, "Well, I'm so infinitely abundant. If that were to happen, I would give it to him because um, you can't take what I have. It's infinitely abundant, creativity that comes from my source, And little did I know what a foreshadowing that was, because months later, I uncover they're trying to take not my podcast, but
The
my
business.
shares of our business.
Yeah.
And so I decided it was my opportunity. One of my favorite guest I've had on Positive Head podcast is Dr. Eben Alexander. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I
He
am
wrote a
familiar with him. Yes.
Harvard neurosurgeon who got a lot of attention because his book was a bestseller. Because here's this Harvard guy who wasn't into any woo-woo stuff, and what do you know? He gets meningitis. His brain is fried. He's in a coma. They say pull the plug. He's done. He isn't coming back. He miraculously comes back and shares his week-long adventure on the other side while he was in a coma. And part of what I remember him telling me on when I interviewed him was, I was shown that the villains in our story are often our best friends on the other side, and they're playing a role for us to have a certain experience. So that came to mind with this friend, as here he is, sort of betraying me, and so I got to walk the talk. I got to say, hey, we've uncovered that by seeing your email, we have uncovered that you guys are trying to push us out. You don't have to push us out. You can have what's left. We're just going to hand it over and walk. We just want a clean break. Their energy was so toxic at the time too. So much ego and manipulation and all these things that me and my brother just, it's not us. And we went and started something new out of the ashes of that. And I got to hand it over December 24th, 2015. I wrote that email. We've uncovered your plot. You don't have to take it. You can have it, and
Wow.
and so now fast forward to 6 months ago. Well, not even 6 months ago. Yeah, probably the first of this year. Yeah, I guess. Wow, we're already in July. Yeah, 6 months ago. Um, and and all of a sudden, I hit print on my new book, The Golden Key: Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, and it's the old friend partner's name pops up. It's been like 6 years,
Wow.
or five plus years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like so weird to see this name on my phone. And my partner Karen's like, answer it. I almost didn't answer it. She pushed me into answering it. And he said, look, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I've been on an intense spiritual journey myself these last few years. You keep coming up for me in my meditations. something. He had an intuitive friend who kept telling him something about writing a book with me. And he's like, I don't write, Brandon. I'm not a writer, good writer. But something about us writing a book. And what was so funny, Marla, is I just hit print on my book that day, hours earlier. And I write about him in the book, this hero's journey tale. And I didn't name him by name like I'm not doing here, but I refer to him as the villain in my story, and that it's actually happening for me, not to me, in these ideas.
I read it.
Yeah. So the villain calls me hours after I hit print. And so fast forward now, here we are 6 months later, we ended up meeting a few weeks later. A lot of tears, apologies from him. He is what he used to ridicule me for. He's now like, I go to his house and he's got hundreds of books that he gifts to everyone and meditates every day. And just like, and he's had an incredible amount. He lost everything after we parted ways. And then out of the ashes of that, now he is just thriving in, he's so cut out for it. He's such a shrewd business person anyway, but now he's got the heart to go with it. And so he turned around and said, hey, here, my book's all about creating more abundance and, healing in the world. And he turned around and handed me $50,000 in cash and said, here, I just want you to have this to help get your message out there. And now we're back in each other's life and it's better than ever. And, considering how we can collaborate to bring more of this message to the world. And, it's been just an incredible hero's journey tale. And, I started telling it on podcast because it unfolded as I'm doing these interviews, around my book. And it was funny. I kept saying, well, it's such a redemption story. It's such a redemption story. And,
It truly is.
All of a sudden, a new book on Amazon just popped up called The Golden Key, same name as mine, which there's a ton of synchronicity around the book, the cover, the art, which I write about in the book. But now a new book, if you search Golden Key on Amazon, it's a fiction book and it's called The Golden Key, a redemption story. And it popped up right after mine. And I'm like, okay, I got to read this. So that is my hero's journey tale.
Wow, that's an amazing story. And how beautiful that you gave, and they had to learn their lesson because they were doing something nefarious. So I'll use the word karma.
Yeah.
The karma that they put out, they got back because they were being underhanded. And you were so gracious at saying, don't steal it. Here, take it.
Yep.
And
it was hard. It was hard.
It's very hard. I know that I had a business and I had to have surgery, and the person who claimed to want to help me actually stole my business from me. It wasn't that it was any big grand business, but the fact is I'm down and out and I can't do a thing about it. And it's sort of like hitting somebody when they're down.
Yeah.
But my belief is I don't have to do a thing. Just God bless, go with God. You want it that bad? Because things will go in my way.
You can't take what we are, and that's the thing to realize. It's the thing it really points to. It's like, look, the success of it isn't because of the model or this or that. It's the energy of the people, bringing it forth. And that is something you can never take.
It's so true. We only have like a minute and a half, but can you talk about the ultimate nature of reality in that minute and a half?
Sure. Yeah. So the ultimate nature of reality for me, as I touched on earlier, is, there's relative truths. You and I are separate. That's true. You and I are one. That's true.
Yes.
What vantage point from which are we speaking? The ultimate vantage point, all is literally one. When the game is over, all the puzzle pieces go back in the box. It's the same box. And so, that is really the most baseline way I can say it. We are one with the source consciousness that creates and animates all things. There's only one of us in the room. Everywhere I go, I'm there waiting for myself. And the consciousness that animates my form is the consciousness that animates your form. Once you start acting as if that is the case as your baseline, and everywhere you go, you're there waiting for yourself. And what is this reflecting to me, about me, to help for my good and growth? That's when it becomes a real game changer.
I really like that. I use the phrase, we are many, we are one, because we are. We have our own individuality, but yet we are all consciously connected.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So, Brandon, hang on for 1 second. We're going to go on a break. We'll be right back. Stick around as I continue talking with Brandon Beachum and talk about the book, The Golden Key. Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. Great book. Check it out.
All right, nicely done. We're all clear. Back in a couple minutes.
Thanks, Matt. That was good. Wow, that's a great story.
Isn't it wild? Isn't it wild how it unfolded? I mean, just in divine timing, and it's just shoo. And now he has. We talk, every day. Not every day. I take that back. We were talking most days, and it's just like it's kind of like riding a bike. It's like your old friend is back, but he is just. He had another friend that gave him equity in his business a few years ago, and it's a marijuana business that is just, they sold the retail part of it 2 weeks ago for $140 million. And then he just sent me video yesterday of them. That's the small part of their business. Their farming is the big part. He sent me, it's big ag farming. They're planting 1.6 million plants right now with like huge machines. And it's like, he's going to probably be a billionaire, but now he's in his heart, and it's like, how can I support you? How can we work together? How can we, so it should be really interesting to see how it unfolds from here.
And I think the beauty that I'm feeling is that there's not the, oh, you're doing better than me competition, because it's not about competition. It's about collaboration, because there's plenty for everybody.
Yeah.
We just have to realize it. And quite frankly, you can be a billionaire, but really, how much money do you really need on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis?
And he gets that now, and he didn't before. And so, and it brings up things for me. We were always, it's probably the person I've been most married to in the past, multiple businesses, bank account shared, and he's thriving in a way that I've always envisioned I would, and haven't quite gotten to that. My journey there's been more challenges, in the last years. I'm definitely not where he's at. Although I have abundance in all these other forms, and so but it brings up, some of those things in me, like, oh, are you still too attached to some of those ideas? And I think that's an important growth edge.
And it's all stepping stones to growth. There's nothing that's going on in your life that is done to hold you down. It's actually for the opposite, to help you sort of break through. Like, what is it, Mighty Mouse? When we were I don't know when Mighty Mouse, where you break through and really become your own being.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, sorry to jump in, but we are coming back. Stand by.
Perfect, thanks.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you're invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. If you've just tuned in, I'm talking to Brandon Beachum. Brian is a podcaster, entrepreneur, author, philosopher, and truth seeker. He is the author of this brand new book, The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. I read this book, and it is phenomenal. It has a lot of concepts, but the way Brandon puts it together has a beautiful flow, and it's just so easy to comprehend and digest and say, I get it. It definitely is a light switch to possibly shifting the way you look at what you're trying to achieve in life. Welcome back, Brandon.
Thank you for having me, Marla.
So much fun. Again, such a great book. Let's talk about the book a little bit. I'm jumping, but you have so many amazing first of all, I love the quotes that you put in here. You found some amazing quotes, concepts. Let's talk about what the 8 keys are.
Sure. Would you like me to just kind of rattle them off?
You could rattle them off. You can rattle them off with a 1 or 2 sentence description of the chapter, whatever you want to do.
I'll just read them off, and then we can go from there wherever you'd like.
Perfect.
So, excuse me, need a little water. All right, I can talk again. So the first key is see the oneness. The second key, know the illusion. The third key, focus your flow. The fourth key, align your intentions. The fifth key, be. The sixth key, trust the mystery. The seventh key, love what comes. And the eighth key, the golden key that ties them all together, master the universe, the YOU universe.
which I love. And I love how you had money G or monergy and you inner stand opposed to
Mm,
understand. I
hmm
love the way you play with words.
Yeah, I've always been sort of a nerd for plays on words, and hey, that even rhymes. Nerd for plays on words, and it can be a bit absurd, but I definitely enjoy it.
But it's fun and it
It's
definitely
fun.
changes the perspective way somebody looks at these words and the understanding of it, like innerstand rather than understand. Yeah, we can
hmm
understand, but sometimes you really have to get introspective to
hmm
really get the full, as you say, understanding.
Yeah. I like to reference that a lot of times, understanding when I'm making a point and it ties back to. And as you listen to this point, remember the deepest of deep truths, which is oneness, right?
Yep.
So understanding, knowing that, it's all playing in this pond, and everything else that's all the lily pads floating on top are rooted in this knowing that I am, one with the only source consciousness that exists.
And we were talking about that right before the break when we were, we are many, we are one, though we're separate, everybody is connected like a big web.
Mm-hmm.
So that, when you sit there and the people who come at you in a negative way, who project things at you, and we were talking about this too offline about how, spirits, and I had just read this book by, it's called Robert Schwartz. Your what is it? Basically, it talks about your pre-birth decisions, the pre-birth
Mm,
plan, and how we all
mm,
have them, and how when we're on the other side, everybody's in love, everybody's supportive of each other, and people take on these roles to be our teacher and to be our student
yeah.
in
Yeah.
all aspects of life. So when you talk about the being one, we are truly, and then the next is your know the illusion. That's key
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it really is. Understanding that it's all first one, and then that you truly are. This is a dream that God once had. And I share a lot of perspectives from science in the early part of the book, just to help really anchor it in, because a
You
lot of
do.
people, I think, look at it through that lens, and I believe science and spirituality is doing a dance currently that is just so inspiring. And so I touch on this idea of what's real. Well, we're 99.9999% space, if you want to get down to it and look at the atoms that make each of us up. They're not solid at all. The parts we call solid are actually vibrations of energy popping in and out of existence, that are vibrating so quickly and popping in and out of existence so quickly, they appear solid, like a movie, will
Mhm.
on the movie theater, that it's on the tape and it's going fast enough where it's flickering enough where it's like, oh, that appears solid, when in actuality it's a light show. And that's actually what's happening here. This I also share in that key a little bit about simulation argument, as um, you know um, Nick Bostrom put forward, Oxford director of Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford University. Nick Bostrom, in early 2000s, he put this idea forward that, are we living in a simulation? And he talks about the three possibilities of what he calls a trilemma. What would happen with a civilization, developing civilization. He argues that, one of three things: a species becomes extinct before they become post-human, meaning they solve all the world's major problems that would threaten their survival. Two, the species becomes post-human, but then opts to only utilize low technology. And third, a species becomes post-human and continues to develop higher technology. Now, if they do the third and continue to develop higher technology, he argues that, well, they would they would go down the path of creating ancestor simulations. And these sims or simulated ancestors, you couldn't really tell a difference from the original base reality. There's, we're getting close to being able to do something like that now, probably not in our too near in our future. So now, okay, so what's the most likely statistically that you're in currently? Well, if he also ran an algorithm to trying to determine which scenario is most likely of the three. And he determined that most likely is they post-human and continue to develop high technology, which then leads you to, okay, all it takes is one kid with an Xbox 1000 on his shelf in this future version of ourselves, where he could create lots of us in these in these simulations. So that's why you have people like Elon Musk putting it like, look, statistically speaking, 1 in billions that we're in a base level reality as opposed to some sort of a simulation. Now, I think for some people that can sit a little uncomfortably, like, oh, hold on, this is a computer simulation. And it's like, well, a lot of evidence points to it. You zoom in on us, we pixelate the same way you would on a, it's all made of light. Someone has programmed certain parameters, and but what's the point of a simulation? Right? Like if you and I wanted to be a jet pilot, they would put us in a simulation before they put us into the skies. Right? And the point is to get our chops down in a safer environment before we're in a bigger arena. That's where the stakes are higher. Right? So when you think of it in those terms, it's like, okay, maybe I'm in a simulation, but I'm also the one that created the simulation, for if I'm one with all things, in order to, test my chops, get better at creating my reality. If we're one with God, source, the universe, higher self, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, what does it do? It creates. It's a creator. Well, what if you're creating with tools that are way too powerful for where you're at in your development? You could really do some damage. Right. So, okay, let's create a simulation where, the stakes aren't as high. And if we do end up offing ourselves, we crash the jet, we wake, luckily it didn't affect the base level reality. And so in a way that would be, more detrimental. So that's kind of the things that I cover in this exploration of the illusory nature of our, our experience here.
And I love when you say, so what's the point? In the chapter, it says that basically you were saying that people aren't as abundant as the reason most people aren't as abundant as they would like to be is that they are playing the game of life and they don't know the rules. And boy, those rules are important, but they're not hard, fast rules.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really, life is challenging knowing what I know at times. I mean, I can't imagine being someone who isn't aware of that. There's so many people out there who are playing the game of life, not knowing that they're one with everything. Everywhere they go, they're waiting for themselves, that it's happening for them, not to them. They're completely asleep still, in a sense. And you talk about the game being hard from that perspective, and it's just a different level of experience, and it's one that is as valid and necessary too for Source. I believe it wants to experience all the vantage points. And you see people at different points in their evolution as a soul. So you see a younger soul who's maybe, out there right now still experiencing separation in a dramatic way. It's experiencing, someone is out there right now killing someone or stealing or doing some atrocious things. And that's a part of Source that's still experiencing the extreme end of separation, because it needs to, what I believe it is when all the puzzle pieces go back in the box. God is love. It is love. It's all happening for love. But without contrast, that can't really mean anything, right? You can't know that what you are if you don't know that what you are not. So that's what I believe is happening. We're all godding, and at various levels of that experience, and it's all valid and necessary. You've never seen a great work of art without shadow in it. And so I think, once you can apply that perspective to your awareness, it helps to take the sting out of some of the, otherwise, very harsh things that go on. But they're taken out of context, and when you put them in the big context, it all, I believe, is a perfectly woven web that's all happening for love.
So true. It is so true. So let's go to key 3. Focus your flow.
Focus your flow. Yeah. So, James Redfield said it well, where attention goes, energy flows. And, I start that chapter out giving an example of the greatest world champion race car driver. He's won in all the different styles of racing, Formula One and IndyCar and NASCAR, and Mario Andretti. And they asked him in an interview, what's the number one tip to be a successful race car driver? And he said, don't look at the wall.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
You know why he said it?
Yeah.
Like, where attention goes, energy flows. So, it is so true to focus on what you want to see more of. And it's so easy. I shared the story earlier about my own journey, starting out with my company, where I was on my friend's couch, and I could have focused on that and like, oh, I'm, by societal standards, I'm a loser, and look, I have no abundance in my life currently, and all of the external circumstances in our life, they're really a reflection of past vibrational offerings. Right. So what I was experiencing then was a culmination of my vibration up to that point. But that doesn't define me. It's almost like looking into the past a little bit, your current experiences. So what we need to train ourselves to do is focus on the core of who and what we are, and not these reflections that are, in the third dimension. There's a lag. And I think that's what confuses people. If every time I made a move, I instantly got the karma for it, or the energetic repercussions, I start to connect the dots more easily. But when there's, a lag, it's harder. It's like, punishing your child a week after they did something, and I think that throws us off sometimes. And so, what we need to learn to do is focus on what we want to see more of, and the part of ourselves that we're calling in, and sort of train ourselves to ignore the things that we don't want to see more of. And when I say ignore, I mean, there's a necessary point of acknowledging something and then shifting your focus, right? It's like Mother Teresa. They asked her during the Vietnam War, they were doing a huge march, and they wanted her to be a big part of it. And they asked her, would you come and march against the war in Vietnam? And she said, I'll never do that, but have a march for peace and I'll be there. Because she understood how important it was to focus on what you want to see more of.
Which is so, so true. Okay, let's go to the next chapter, which is chapter 4, align your intentions.
Yeah. So, it basically, what I share there is how whatever you're putting out is going to come back to you, and understanding that, I talk about in the book quite a bit, this idea that as we come into the next phase of our growth and consciousness as humans, we're entering a new chapter where I like to talk about us coming out of the COVID chrysalis, right? We're exiting the caterpillar stage of humanity and emerging into the butterfly stage of humanity. And in this new world where, more than ever, our intentions are everything. So what are you focused on? What is the intention of what you're doing, and why are you doing it? If you want to know the results of anything that you do, my brother had an experience, and I share in the book, where he had a dream, a very lucid dream, with my deceased grandmother, and he decided to ask her to take his airtime with her in that dream to oracle. Hey, at the time we were in a band, this is many years ago, what's going to happen with the band? It was so important to us at that point to make it somewhere. And she said, you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it. And that always stuck with me. It's like, what is the intention of what you're doing? Because that is going to be reflected in the results. So once you start understanding this, aligning your intentions, and then understanding there's even a greater intention of source, right? And how do you align, which involves service in some way, because you're always serving self. You're right now, we're doing this and it's benefiting others. That's always going to be, Gandhi said, if you want to find yourself, lose yourself in the service of others. I believe that holds true because there are no others. So learn to align your intentions, focus on what you want to see more of. You can acknowledge something you don't want anymore, and that's great. Oh, I've acknowledged it. Now I'm going to give it no more energy. On to what I want to. And I think that's a big one in our world today as people rally against injustice and all those things. It's a slippery slope because we're creators. Where attention goes, energy flows. We create with we buy what we pay attention to.
Right. But if you focus on what if you state what you don't want, but focus on what you do want as the duality, then that way, you know what you don't want. And now you can push that aside and just take all your energy and put it forward. Aside. Exactly. Right. We need to hang on for a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All right, perfect. Good job. We're all clear. Back in about 2.
Thank you. Brandon, I don't have your email address. Not your email, your website.
Oh, okay. goldenkey.gift is where I'm going to steer people to get the book. And then if they use the code GUIDED, they can get the audio or ebook as a gift.
Okay. But I wanted them, if they wanted to check you out for anything else you do, your retreats, whatever.
Positivehead.com. You can find me on social media by searching my name. Optimystic.tv is also my other site.
I love that. I love that. The name, how you took Optimistic and that you played around with that. Absolutely. Love it. Okay. So we'll have that when they come back and we'll do the charity shout out. But I think talking about these keys is just brilliant. I think it's going to be so helpful for people.
Thank you for that.
Well, I just, you make it, other than I have to tell you the quantum physics stuff, I had to go over a couple of times, but other than that, because I'm not very scientific, I just thought that it's just so digestible. It's such bite-sized ways that people could bite-size take it in and use it and not go, oh, this is phooey or this is so woo-woo.
Yeah. I that was the aim, 1,500 episodes of my podcast and 25 years of waxing poetic about this stuff. It's like, okay, how do I distill this down into 100 pages or 3 hours or so to listen to? And that was the aim. And luckily I had some great help with my partner and editor who is very concise, where I can be very verbose. So it really helped us working together on it.
Yeah. Believe me, I understand that part. Having a good editor is so important.
So important.
Mine made my words so much better, so much nicer than I'm very direct.
She called me the king of embedded clauses when she read my first draft, because I speak, but this, and then I loop it all back around, and that can work when you're talking and using visual cues and inflection. And, you start putting that on paper and it's a whole different animal.
Yes, it is.
All right, we are coming back. Stand by.
Perfect. Thank you.
You are listening to Guided Spirit Conversations. To reach Marla Goldberg or her guest today, you are invited to call into the program at 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. If you'd rather send an email, the address is guidedspiritconversations@gmail.com. Now, back to this week's program.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for sticking around. If you're just tuning in, I'm with Brandon Beachum. Brian is a podcaster, entrepreneur, philosopher, truth speaker, and author of The Golden Key, Modern Alchemy to Unlock Infinite Abundance. So here's the picture. If you're streaming with me on Facebook, you can see the cover. Brilliant book, having a great conversation. Check out Brandon at positivehead.com. Where you'll get information about his website. You can check out Optimystic, OPTIMYSTIC.tv, which is his spiritual centric late night style variety show. And you can check out his book and receive a gift at goldenkey.gift. So welcome back, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just add for that gift as the audio and or ebook, you would use the code GUIDED to be able to get that as a gift.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So it's charity shout out time, and we're talking about, ironically, charitywater.org. Let's talk about what Charity Water does, how it helps, and why you're so passionate about it and where they need help.
You know what I love about Charity Water? Couple things. One, I love what they're doing. There's so many charities out there that are great and necessary. But what is more fundamentally necessary than water? One in almost 10 people in the world don't have access to clean water. 780 some million people. I mean, it's double the size of the US. Can you imagine? And no wonder they're getting sick and, having so many health issues and just that base level necessity is not being met. And so what's great about Charity Water is what they're doing, digging wells around the world, but also 100% of the proceeds that go to Charity Water, that you donate to Charity Water, actually go towards building those wells. They raise money for their administration and people who run the organization separately. So that's handled elsewhere. So when you give your dollar, the whole dollar goes towards putting in wells. And I love that.
I like that too. That's really nice. I want to look into that. Thank you for sharing that. So we were on chapter 4 of your book. I'm coming back to that because I really want to get through the keys. And so now the 5th key, BBB.
BBB. So
BBB.
as you mentioned earlier, I just, I'm a nerd for plays on words, and and it gets even more absurd when you start looking at how the universe, I believe, think about it. I think about it like this: like if my higher self, it's like Russian dolls, who and what we are. I'm playing the role of the avatar Brandon and you, Marla, at this moment. But then that's part of, and many intuitive people, talk about this idea of an oversoul. Like, Brandon is part of an oversoul that is a bunch of souls. And then that's nested within a bigger, context. And ultimately it's all one, right?
Yes.
And so when you think about your higher self, the more expanded version of yourself, first off, we're down here playing checkers and it's playing chess. It's seeing the board in a way that you just can't. And that's why it's so important to have expectations and so forth with a healthy sense of detachment, because you can go into a certain, a lot of people say expectation is the enemy. I say, no, that expectation is great, but with a healthy sense of detachment, because there's things you can't see or know. And it's always this or something better. And that really helps me as I try, it's cool when I set the intention to go a certain direction and it unfolds like I want, but more often than not, it unfolds differently. And if I trust that process, and I'm actually getting a little ahead of myself with the next key, but so to back up, for the BBB part, which is the 5th key, I loved seeing the not only these plays on words and how this stuff is kind of hiding in plain sight, universe, one song, and so it's also encoded in our name, in names. Sometimes I kind of lightheartedly point out, like the former investment advisor Bernie Madoff. He burned everyone and made off with their money, billions of dollars, largest Ponzi scheme in history. Or Anthony Weiner, the congressman who fell from grace from exposing himself. It's like
exposing his wiener.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, right? So I started examining, my own name and what's hiding there. Well, my last name is Beachum. I could break that down to be a chum, be a friend for the world, which I feel like I'm achieving in some way. But my initials are BBB, and it's like, if you ask my father, when I was young, about holding me, he's told me many times, he goes, man, when you were little, you 2 year, 3 years old, I'd try and put you on my lap and you would squirm to get away because you had things to do, places to go, people to see. You were busy, busy, busy. And that's been me. I've always been very energized and a lot of motivation. And yet, all of the signs point to, and as you study these perspectives on the ultimate nature of reality, the present is the gift. That's where all the good stuff is. That's where we are always in a now moment, right? And so
Yes.
when I'm projecting into the future or reminiscing about the past, it creates depression or anxiety a lot of times, right? One or the two,
Yeah.
depending which direction you're focused. Meanwhile, all of the power is in the now, which is why you have some of the greatest spiritual bestsellers of all time, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, or Ram Dass, Be Here Now, because that strikes such a chord with each of us. This idea like, hold on, in this now moment, if I'm fully present, all the gifts are here. This moment is as divine as any other moment ever has been, could be, or will be. My job is to find it and to be present to receive it and to not miss the messaging that's in it for me, what it's showing me about myself. And it's all a feedback loop reflecting me back to me. And if I'm too focused in the future or too lost in the past, which, by the way, the past isn't quite like you remember it. The future will never
Never.
come exactly like you imagine. So you're kind of like playing with smoke and mirrors. Meanwhile, at the expense of the present, the gift that is now. And that's really what that chapter is all about, and why I think I gave myself the initials BBB, playfully
Well,
coming
and
in.
it's also that part where you were talking about, what is it? Be do,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and but it's really, wait, it's
I
okay.
can share. I can explain it if you'd
Thank
like.
you. Please,
Yeah, yeah.
please.
So most people are doing something like work in order to have something like money, in order to be something like happy, right? Do, have,
Yeah.
be. That's the way the world primarily is operating, as if there's an out there. There is no out there out there. It's reflecting you back to you. So once you get that, you really flip that on its head. You be something like happy, and you find yourself doing and having things that are a reflection of that happiness. So I always say we have all varied life paths here, all of us, but we all have the same number one job if we want to create the most abundant life possible for ourselves, and fulfilling life possible, greatest and grandest version of ourselves. And that is to manage our vibration, because that is, everything is coming from that which is
Yes.
like unto itself is drawn. Water finds its own level. So what are you being? That, remember how I said earlier, today is a lag of a past vibrational offering. So what do you want to
Yes.
see tomorrow? Well, what are you being today? And so once you start realizing that, it's also very empowering, because a lot of times people feel disempowered by their circumstances, when the
Yes.
universe can miraculously create and call things, and you could never see coming, from angles and ways you just could not have fathomed. I had a friend the other day who was really, he was on, I've seen many people, and I've had these moments myself, where he was just in a heightened state of excitement and remembering who and what he is. And so he was just kind of on one, just in awe of his reality and creation. And so he was in that state, which creates a field vibrationally around him. And so he goes to the grocery store, and he's so high vibration, they're kind of in awe of him at the counter, and like, oh my gosh, who is this? And they just they forget to ring up his groceries. And so
Wow.
he then realizes this when he's leaving. He goes back in and says, hey, you guys, we were so excited here. Everyone was being affected by the field he was emitting, that you forgot to charge me. And I want to be honest. I can only, being honest is the only answer. Once you understand, you're always doing it to yourself, and you'll feel the energetic repercussions of any decision. So I want to pay for these groceries. Well, then they were in all of that. You came back to get, oh my, here, take more. So he's unlocking abundance with his vibration, right? And,
Yep.
and you start looking at, how this works. It's so empowering, because there isn't, moving things around out there isn't the answer to getting to where you want to go. Moving things around within you is the answer to getting where you want to go.
It
And
is.
out there will reflect that.
That is so true. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. I can't believe the time is up. I want to thank you. I want to remind everybody, please check out goldenkey.gift to get your either book or ebook, and the code is guided.
Yep.
So that you can receive that. Check out Brandon at positivehead.com and Optimystic, and Mystic is MYSTIC.TV. Thank you again. I want to thank everybody at Voice America for all you do to help me get the show on, and you do such a fabulous job. Thank you. I want to thank Bridget, right hand, left hand. Don't know what I'll do without you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Mostly, I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your day, out of your life to be a part of this show. Because whether you're watching it live or as a replay, you're still a part of it and you're still receiving the energetic gifts that we're trying to give you for the show. I want to ask you to check out my website, MarlaGoldberg with 2Rs.com. Check out what I do, how I help, and how I can work with you. In addition, I'm going to leave you with a quick question. Who's more important, Gandhi's grandmother or Gandhi? That's a question that Brandon shared with me. And so I want to share it with you. And until the next time, as always, I send you love, I send you blessings, and I send you gratitude. Stay well, stay happy, be grateful, and I love you. Take care.